Good evening, golf friends, and welcome to my webinar series, Tuesday Traces. The purpose of this webinar is to show how the V1 pressure mat is used by some of our amazing industry partners. Welcome to all the folks that registered and have joined us via the Zoom webinar, and welcome to all the folks tuning into the V1 Sports live channel. The recording of tonight's webinar will be available on our YouTube channel in a few days, and everyone that registered will get an email with the link as well. We love answering all your questions throughout the evening, so please post them over there in that chat window. My amazing team behind the scenes will feed those to Tom and I. We'll do our best to get to the ones that have already been sent and the ones that come up tonight. I'm giving away some cool swag later in our episode. If you have registered for the Zoom webinar, you're automatically entered to win. It's a random drawing. Kelly, our director of marketing, will pick at the about 7:45 mark. If you're joining us from Facebook, please shoot her an email to marketing@v1sports.com and you will be entered to win. There is a cool prize. The hint is KFC. V1 Sports is a 25-year-old company. We are the leader in delivering video analysis and instruction solutions to golfers and golf instructors around the world. Our development team is leading the industry with software integrations, including BodyTrack, Foresight, and tons of others on the way. They are heads down, busy making it happen. Also, our new V1 game app has become the top scorecard and golf statistics app on the market. For all you coaches that are tuned in, please check out the coaches piece of the V1 game app. It presents the students' data in a pretty incredible way. It takes the emotions out of what happens on the golf course. Coaches, go download the app and you can see how the data is presented on the students' score on the course. We have an entire YouTube section on V1 Game and V1 Coach. I highly recommend you check it out. I am Mandy Von See. I am the Regional Sales Manager for V1 Sports based in the Low Country in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. I love my team a whole bunch. I love my job immensely, and I love putting great technology in the hands of golf instructors and golfers. I love building relationships. Tonight, I get to show off one of them with my good friend who's just north of me in the Low Country. This is my 12th Tuesday Trace, and I couldn't be more excited to be sharing the hour with my client, my good friend, my homeboy, Tom Saguto. Tom, thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, Mandy, thank you so much, and for bringing the sword in. I got to say, it's really an honor to be here, and the work that your team does for me helps me to help so many golfers all over the world make the most out of the game that they love. And I've been loving the V1 support and the software. I use it all the time, as you know, and I try and get my people to use it, the KFC club out there, the Saguto golfers out there, because it's so valuable to know what you're actually doing in your swing, not just what you're feeling, but are you working on the right things? And I can't stress that enough with my students all the time. So it's been a blessing to have you and your team supporting me as we help golfers all over the world.
Thank you. You certainly make our job a lot of fun, that's for sure. So, you know, the 12th Tuesday Trace with Stack and Tilt teacher Tom Saguto. That's certainly a lot of teas, but I'm really excited. Let me tell you a little bit about Tom Saguto. If you're not a huge fan, which I know that half of our audience is, they're calling you Pluto Saguto over there. If you don't know Tom Saguto already, I highly recommend subscribing to his YouTube channel right away. My team will share information for how to get in touch with Tom, but definitely go get in touch with him via YouTube like ASAP. He's known to pull a sword out of his golf bag. I've heard him call a student swing crispier than Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the Saguto effect is a real thing. He's definitely the most unique and interesting golf instructor in our network. That's just how I personally feel. Here's some real stuff. Tom is a bright young instructor based about an hour and a half north of me in Pawleys Island with one of the fastest growing golf YouTube channels today. His personality and delivery call to mind a young Jim Carrey blended with the confidence, passion, and swing expertise of Michael Breed with a dash of golf-centric impressionist Connor Moore just to dial up the entertainment value. Tom, what do you think about that? Jim Carrey, Michael Breed, Connor Moore?
Yeah, that's quite an entrance. I relate to Jim Carrey probably the most. You ever watch that movie where he gets to play, Bruce Almighty? All the facial expressions.
I love it. I love it.
That's like, well, so when I was filming, I think I had a moment where I was early in my golf instruction business. I started out, I'm going to get on YouTube and I'm just going to put on the perfect outfit and do the boring monotone thing like everybody else, try and blend in.
Right.
And it was so boring. It was so boring. I would turn the camera off and say, what is this crap? You know? And so I started just saying, I just chucked everything against the wall, and I didn't care if anybody was watching or not. It was just more fun to teach the way I actually teach my students, which is we blend some humor, we got some golf, we get you energized and excited. It's not like, well, you take the club back, you kind of make sure you got a 90-degree angle. Well, none of that stuff. So we're always having fun and learning.
Yep.
And then, you know, it started catching on, which was really a lot of fun. So I get to be myself, which is the best thing ever on TV.
I love it. So I wrote in my script, don't miss his episode called What's in the Bag, where Tom describes the non-negotiable items you must have in your golf bag. Tonight, I think we can agree that our samurai swords and our V1 pressure mats are two of the non-negotiable items that we have to have in our golf bag. There's my sword.
And if I could lock swords with yours, I would.
I think my sword's almost touching you on our Zoom webinar. Okay. You guys go look at it. It's really fun and hilarious and amazing. And I did solicit a sword.
V1's making swords now, I heard.
Okay, so Tom, I'd like for our audience to get to know a little bit about you better as far as, you know, how you got into golf. I know that neither of your parents have careers in golf, and that ultimately your first passion was not golf, but the guitar. So, you know, your mom is a very successful salesperson. I know that. Your dad is a love of baseball and a love of playing the guitar, which I know you also have. So how are you a golf instructor? What happened? How'd you get here?
Yeah, right. There was absolutely like a lot of kids knew what they wanted to be when they grew up. Yeah. Astronaut, firefighter. I actually wanted to be an airline pilot for the longest time. And then baseball became in the mix. My dad was a college player. I liked the New York Yankees. So shout out to my Yankees fans out there. And I wanted to be as good as I could at baseball, be the next Derek Jeter. Something happened where my dad chucked a Tiger Woods computer game in 1998. He just chucked it on my desk and he said, play this game, see what happens. And there was a 2D cutout of Tiger Woods swinging in his prime, you know, back when he was, 98, 99, and 2000. That was his most successful run probably in golf and just dominating. So I got to learn golf through a 2D cutout of Tiger Woods. I had no clue what I was doing, but my dad took me out to the range, started getting acquainted with the game. And he said, well, you're setting up like Tiger Woods and you're kind of swinging like him. Except he didn't tell me that. He told me that like 20 years later. I said, Dad, you know, we could have $300 million by now. We knew that I was swinging just like Tiger Woods. But he's like, you just weren't interested enough. So I appreciated that. And time goes by, playing a lot of baseball. And eventually, in high school, I found out you could join the golf team, like free golf and free range balls and all this stuff. Joined the golf team, had a massive slice, it was like a post pattern. It would go off straight and then dive immediately to the right. And it would sometimes go over onto the highway, which was really scary. Yeah. Scary thought, because our driving range was next to a highway. And that I got the bug after that because I was tired of seeing that slice partially, but I really enjoyed the perfectionistic nature of it, that you can never achieve it, but you can try, and it's a precision type of game. Well, I had no aspirations of becoming a teacher. I'm just a struggling golfaholic. I went to many golfaholics meetings. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm a golfaholic. I hit the ball all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm powerless over golf, right? So that was the whole idea, is that I struggled for so long. I was doing the things that we'd all been taught for the longest time. The things like shift your weight, lift your arms, drop the club in the slot, release your hands. And I even took it with me to college, where I was trying to become a PGA professional in the Coastal Carolina Go-Chanticleers golf management program. And what I found was, I thought, if I go to school for 4 years, I can't screw this up. I actually want to play some really competitive golf. I want to get on tour. I was really a hard worker. And it wasn't happening, doing the same old things. So my program wasn't working. I kept doing the same old things. I got so frustrated that first semester, I called my dad up and said, I want to quit. I had hit thousands of balls a week, and I had 4 golf instructors there. I had V1, we had V1 software. We had launch monitors, all this awesome training aid tools for learning. And none of it helped me in the sense that it was awesome to see, but my game was not getting better. Right? And so my dad said, why don't you just stick with it for a little bit longer, finish out the year, and then figure out what you want to do with your life. I'm like, that's great. I'll be an underwater basket weaving by Easter. Here we go. So I finished out the year, and then I go to an internship at Devereux, which was about 20 minutes south of here. And the pro there said, well, I was on my lunch break and I was at rock bottom. Just imagine like the epitome of lowness in my golf game. And I bet a lot of you in the audience can relate to that feeling of you've chucked your clubs in the water, you've gone back in to get the clubs out of the water, and you've thrown them back in again, only to retrieve them again. And so that lunch break, he said, yeah, I'll give you like 15 minutes and we'll go out there, we'll hit some balls. So went out there. He saw my swing, which a lot of people have not seen the old swing, the high arms, the steep shifting weight tom that really keeps me up at night when I think about it. But he said after like 1 swing or 2 swings, he's like, stop. So he said, I want you to not do any of what you're doing. I want you to, instead of shifting your weight, I want you to put your weight forward. Instead of lifting your arms, I want you to take your arms around your body. And I said, gee, that sounds an awful lot like stack and tilt. And he was just like, shut up and hit the ball. So I hit a ball and it exploded in a beautiful push draw. And then I said, this is a fluke. Let's do it again. Boom, another one. Boom, another one. Boom, another one. And so forth, like 10 times in a row. And I almost fell over. I didn't think it was possible to do that. And so that is what got me really excited about golf. And I think I had a moment there where I said, man, this is not as hard as it seems. Like I'm making this game way too hard. So I had a moment there where I said, I want to help other people achieve this same thing, because I spent the next 3 months doing this new swing, which was contrary to everything I had believed in and learned in golf. And it completely transformed my life. And in an instant, it actually saved my PGA membership, me from going in the dumps. So it was a really, really awesome experience to get that swing and then just transform my life from there.
So would you say stack and tilt was the light bulb, that method was that it? That kept you?
I'd say, yeah, well, and instruction has a lot to do with it. The way you interpret the information, the way the person delivers the information is important. That first lesson stands out to me because of its simplicity, because of the shut up and hit the ball concept of, hey, I'm at my lowest point. Give me something that can help and I'll try anything. I was actually an anti-stack and tilt guy for a long time. And that's just because the media tells you to believe that. And so I don't like to get into that realm. I like to just help golfers, but I experienced that breath of fresh air and immediately wanted to go out and help people.
Right.
It was just like one of those instant conversions. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, you're a good example of something that works, because we can just look at the numbers of people taking lessons from you and the number of new followers on your YouTube channel. My next question, Tom, was you're a tried and true stack and tilt guy and reaching the over 50 crowd who embraces the simplicity and pain-free benefits of your methods and videos. I think that is directly related to the stack and tilt method, don't you?
That's it. The stack and tilt system is actually one of the most body-friendly ways to swing a golf club, and it's got the approval of many doctors and chiropractors. And the reason I started teaching it, I actually started teaching it under the name of body-friendly golf, because stack and tilt can be a taboo word. And so in Myrtle Beach, I've got every golfer is like 70 or 75. Everybody's retired. And if what I'm teaching doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for anybody. I figure if I can't help you later in life with this, then I don't care who it's got to help these people first before it gets to everybody else. What I saw was the same pattern of the same swing flaws happening all over time, and making the same lessons, making the same fixes over time. And so this was a much bigger scale problem than just Myrtle Beach. And what people were saying within one lesson, sometimes within 10 minutes of changing from conventional to the stack and tilt, is they said, I don't feel anything in my lower back. I don't feel anything in my knees. I feel like I could do this all day. And I'm hitting it farther and I'm having more fun. So that was just a win-win.
That's awesome.
And it's just a testament to the system. Really.
And the way that you communicate to your students. I think that's also, you said you didn't have aspirations to be a teacher. However, the way that you communicate information is very simple and easy to understand. Okay, just gonna go off subject just a little bit. For those of you that don't know, Tom is as good a guitar player as he is a golfer and golf coach. Are you playing guitar right now, Tom? Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, not right now, but I would. Typically I would. If we're doing a V1 webinar on Leonard Skinner, I would. But yeah, so I was doing golf instruction as a way to, I was a professional, I'm still a professional musician in a way, but I went on tour for a couple of years as a musician because I really wanted to make it big in music. In fact, one of the reasons I had a business of my own was so that I could do golf during the day and guitar at night and be like Clark Kent, have a double life.
Love it.
And that's really what happened for 2 years and nearly 3 years, playing tons of shows in South Carolina regionally. We went on cruises. I played the Carolina Country Music Fest and the cruise for that, and played for some big acts. Really loved Southern rock, Leonard Skinner. My dad got me into that. He brainwashed me on the right music at a young age, and then transitioned into guitar. But that is where I think the teaching really improved, was the guitar playing at night. You're entertaining people. The teaching during the day, well, you're just teaching people. But if you blend the two, you kind of get a blend of helping people enjoy a golf lesson. It's a lot more fun because both of my lives were bleeding over.
Yeah,
like
I always like to ask our co-host or our host what else is about their life that makes them such successful teachers. And inevitably there's some hobby that is in your past that makes it really fun to work with you. So thank you for sharing about your guitar. I love hearing about it. I'm a huge music fan. Okay, so now let's get into some golf. You keep it super simple. So let's start with, what is the purpose of the golf swing?
Right. That's a great question. So I love to start my lessons off with this because the student, you need to set the tone with the student as far as what are we trying to accomplish hitting this little white ball with a 3-foot stick. I mean, realistically, we're trying to hit a ball with a 3-foot stick and do it repeatedly, right? Sounds crazy. It sounds like a miracle every time we hit the golf ball. You should get really excited when you hit a golf ball because the fact you hit it with this stick is rather amazing. Now, if we want to do that every time consistently and powerfully, we want to return this club to the golf ball and hit the ground in the same spot every single time. So I tell you, the purpose of the golf swing is to do that, is to have consistent contact, be able to hit the ball far enough to play the course and have fun, and be able to have a predictable ball flight. And so that puts me into this area of the purpose of the golf swing is for us to have clean contact. We have to understand one thing, the number one fundamental, and if you've watched my channel, you know I talk about this all the time. That thing is the golf swing is a circle. Okay, we're swinging a club around our body in a circle. I'm not going to hit the fan here. But that circle means my contact point is at the bottom of the circle. So if you draw a perfect circle, right there at the bottom of the circle is that contact point. If I move my body in a swaying motion in the golf swing, I move my circle in a big oval now. And this is one of the biggest problems golfers have, is they move their contact point back and around their body, back and forth. So contact point's always moving. And that gets me into talking about what we're doing today in the traces, the importance of turning the shoulders and the hips correctly, more so the hips. But you have two really important parts of the golf swing with the focus on. You got the shoulders. The shoulders turn in a circle. If you want to have clean contact, which I know you do.
I do.
Crispy KFC contact. You've got to be able to master your shoulder turn. We know that if you take your shoulders and you shift them over here, my contact point just moved back. So this is where I start. This is where I shift. Contact point's over here. I mean, that's where the ball is. I've just moved myself over here. So now I got to get back.
Right.
Can you imagine the timing? I mean, that's why a lot of people can't hit a divot in front of the ball. They're always they're spending their whole day timing up this right here. So if I get you turning your shoulders, and you can do this with a club in your living room right now, if you get them turning in a circle, this is the first thing I always work on with students is clean contact every time. We can't get that. We don't do anything else. And we're going to get that. If you turn your shoulders in a circle, the club travels the same path back, and even on downswing, same circle through. So you're not moving it around. Clean contact. Same thing with the hips. And how many of you like to do the super sway? Right? The tootie ta. This is just as bad. The shoulders are really important. The hips are really important. Golf is a rotational game. We're on a circle. Once you start thinking about circles, life gets so much easier. Instead of thinking about straight lines, like straight back, let's sway, let's do the big dance.
I like hula hoop on an angle.
Yeah, hula hoop on an angle. That's it right there. It's a circle.
Right?
So the hips, the tootie ta, moves your point of contact too. If I can rotate my hips, like we're going to talk about today, I can keep my shoulders turning in a circle. So you got to think like Elvis. You got to think like you're Elvis on stage. You're rotating, because that's how we create power and consistency in the golf swing. So to answer your question, Mandy, that is the purpose. That is the purpose. The purpose is to hit the ground in the same spot every time. We do that purpose by turning our shoulders in a circle, which gets our hips to turn in a circle. And then we also add power by doing the same thing, because we're swinging on an arc around our body. And then we just want to have a predictable curve. So we build that in as well.
Super simple. So the purpose of the golf swing is to hit the ball at the same place every time, and to have maximize the hula hoop on an angle and no wiggle waggle. Although I think we've just made a good point. The tie-in between your nighttime shows, we can do a lot of practice with our hip swing dancing for the golf lesson the next day, right? So there's the tie-in. If you can get people to the shows and then to a golf lesson, you can are you kidding?
If you're not playing AC/DC in your kitchen right now, doing a little hip action like this, that's what we need right now, is to get some classic rock going so you can dance to it. I did want to add to that, the pros on TV, either you're hitting 10,000 balls a day, trying to be perfecting your swing, making sure that you're hitting that target every time. Like some guys do that. Some guys have to do that to keep up with their swing, because they're doing a lot of the things that involve timing, like the shifting.
Right.
Pros do this. A lot of pros do the shifting and a lot of the lifting. But if you don't have to do that. And that's why day in, day out on tour, the names you see up there all the time, some of them are practicing all day long, but some also can take breaks because they realize, well, I don't have to do the whole timing thing. I can just rotate. So you got to do something that's repeatable.
Right.
It's got to come back when you take a 3-week vacation on a cruise ship. It's got to be able to come back. It's got to be there. And we have
folks that are reporting in that they're turning on heavy metal while they're practicing right now. One of your students, Metin, I think has a club in hand. Yeah. So okay, We're at 7:25. We want to see some swings. Do you want to show a piece of your YouTube video, or do you want to show your before swing? Do you want to talk about your hip movement? Where do you want to go?
I'd like to go into the last episode for people that didn't watch. It's about Ben Hogan. It's about the motion of the hips in the golf swing, and it's contradictory to everything that you thought you knew about the golf swing. And it blew my mind seeing this. There's a big controversy in golf that says we have to shift our weight, and the weight's always going to the right side for the right-hand player. And what you find out is by watching the greatest players, it's not actually happening as much as you think. And that's why the pressure traces, the weight, the pressure mat is an eye-opener. That whole episode, I suggest you go check it out if you haven't. We're going to cover pieces of it here, but you got a lot of data in there from the mat, the V1 pressure mat, that's going to show you otherwise. So I want to start with some of the Ben Hogan rear view video.
Okay.
Because that's really an eye-opener. And I'm starting with this because this has to deal with one point of contact every time. So yeah, this right here. This is Ben Hogan. I think it's at the Masters. Now, what we want to watch is his tailbone. Excuse the shaky camera, but the whole point is once he gets to the top of his backswing, we're going to pause there and just take the moment in. Because
we're going to take his tushy in.
We're going to take it all in. We're going to soak it right there. That's the frame. One before it. There we go. Perfect. When we look at this frame, a lot of things come to mind. First thing being his right butt cheek has moved toward his left. It has completely, due to the rotation of the hips, his right cheek's going toward the left. So there's more weight going in that direction. The left leg is lower than the right. So that tells us there's weight on the front side. This contradicts what he wrote about. And I really have to caution you when reading Hogan's books because it's a book that he wrote what he felt, not what actually happened, but what he's feeling. And so when you watch him, it's more important to watch him and take away what is he actually doing. He said he felt shifting his weight into his right side, but by the time he gets to the top of his backswing, it's not weight in the right side. He's actually, before V1 had the pressure mat, this is unfortunately V1 wasn't around in the 50s, but they put him on weight plates and they said it was like 60-40. 60% of his weight was on his front leg, the top.
In his backswing?
In his backswing. So at this point right here, it was 60 to 70%. And you can only get that if you turn your hips like he is. And all players do this. Don't let me get you thinking this is just Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, this anybody. In fact, if you take any great player and from a rear view and we look at their bums, you are going to see the same motion of the tailbone. And am I visible right now, or is it just the screen?
You're visible, Anna. The audience can see Tom, right?
Okay. So they can?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. All great players, you look at their bum right here. I suggest when you go to a tour event, if you ever get to go, just take the rear view all day long if you need to get this hammered into your brain. But we watch the tailbone right here. Throughout the backswing, the hips move toward the target, the tailbone moves toward the target, but my head stays in place. So I'm not like shifting, I'm rotating my hips, doing my Elvis move. The tailbone's got to move toward the target, and then the downswing, we actually turn our hips through. So what you're hearing a lot of times about shifting is really more so rotating, and that's the big deal about it. That's what gets a lot of amateur golfers in trouble, is they hear these words of shift, and then you watch a player and he's rotating. And especially one like Ben Hogan, who influenced millions of golfers, if not a majority of the golfing population. And that's why if you can do that move right there, that hip move, if you set that hip move up, you probably would see the whole golfing world go to an 8 handicap in an instant. Like, you
60
probably would.
40. Jim Altamirano, write that down. 60 40. That's the weight that you're going to see on your pressure mat. I know Jim's making notes right now. Do you have
Well,
some
believe it or
swings?
not, I do have some swings. So there's a Hogan swing that I did. Do my regular one first. We'll just go over that. And one of the things about the pressure mat that I loved when I plugged into it, I actually discovered something wrong in my swing in that episode. So I found a flaw of my own. It was relating to where the weight's going in the backswing. So let's just go through this swing and then we'll talk about it. The first thing was that setup. I found out I was setting up 50-50, not quite 55-45.
Hey, Tom, can I interrupt you really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're showing a video that I think a lot of people, especially your students, are probably not familiar with what this graph is that we're looking at.
Yes.
So can you talk to what are those? I mean, clearly this is a pressure graph. You are standing on a pressure mat. You've got your right foot, left foot. Can you just talk to that just a hair?
Well, yeah, I would. In fact, one of my Saguto Golf subscribers called it the magic carpet ride. So we'll call it. So anyway, when you look at this graph here, what we're seeing at the top, that's my 2 feet. You got the left foot, right foot. So it's not like the feet it's my perspective when you look at it. So left foot, right foot. And the areas where it's blue, there's not as much pressure into the mat. And where it's red, there's a higher concentration of pressure. So I have more pressure on the balls of my feet in the setup here. And one of the things that was an eye-opener, you see that 42.58. That's
Anna,
a metric
can you
of
zoom in on that? The numbers, they're really hard to see on the webinar, but when we talk about percentages, that's where they're showing up. She's going to show the audience exactly those numbers. There we go, right there.
So that would be saying that I've got 42% of my weight on my front leg and 58% on my back leg. Now in my setup there, this is why I love the mat. I felt like I was in the right spot. And I always tell my students to get 55 on the front leg, 45 on the back leg, because this helps you to rotate around the front leg, keep yourself turning in a circle. In fact, you start having issues when you sit back on the right leg. You can't turn. You can't turn the hips like Ben Hogan. We've got to start with that. This is a big flaw because it restricts my hip turn. And what you're going to see in this swing is because of that, I had to adjust a little bit. I think I said on camera, I'm only 50-50. I need to move this a lot more forward, which was nice. Kudos to the Magic V1 pressure.
Feel and real are two different things, right?
Always. My first experience with your pressure mat was at the PGA show when you unveiled it. And I thought I was 50 or 60% front leg, and it was saying I was like 40 back here. So that changed my life when I got back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just one little thing is that dot you see there on the screen with the yellow lines. That's where the weight is going to be moving throughout the golf swing. So ideally what you want to see, and I say ideally because I'm going to point something out here, what you want to see is a gradual movement of that weight into the front side throughout the backswing and into the downswing. So 55-45 at address to 70-30 at the top like Ben Hogan to 90-10 at impact, 95-5 in the follow through. And let's go ahead and play around with that golf swing. Let's go through it and just track it as it goes. So this is actually the power swing I was doing. This is actually the Ben Hogan. So
you have 90-10 there.
Yeah, I should point out. So this is actually the second swing. This is the power swing. The other one is do the other one. This one I'll get to in a little bit. Even though I like that one really was mashed.
You had 90-10 at the top of the swing.
And there's something I have to talk about with that. That was nuts.
Crazy. Okay, so is this the other one?
Yeah, this is the one. So you see I'm really centered going back here.
Yeah.
That dot's not moving at all. This is telling me something. in my swing. And then just keep going through. The weight starts moving forward. You'll get to about, looks like 90, 10 in the follow through. So I hung back a little bit there. And I hit that ball well. It wasn't like it was a bad shot or anything, but that was an eye opener to me because it told me that my hips weren't turning as much as I was doing it in my practice with the pressure mat. And the swing with the one after this, I call it the Hogan power swing. I got nearly 100% of my weight on my front side at the top of my backswing. And that created a tremendous amount of power. So something that I needed to work on here was actually making sure I am turning my hips, not just faking it in the backswing. Can we, with this swing, by the way, this is a 7-iron. I was hitting at about 165 because I have a little portable launch monitor with me. Something you need to know about the hip turn. Golf's a rotational game. If I turn, I can access more power. The senior golfers out there, it doesn't matter if you're senior or not, but I love to use this for the seniors. If you want to hit the ball farther instantly, you can create more turn and you don't have to go to the gym. That sounds good, right? I don't have to go work out and take steroids and get big like Bryson to hit it farther. Even though 7 stakes a day might be a lot of fun. But if you want to hit further, you need to increase your ability to turn. There's no secret behind that because distance comes from taking the club further back. Well, how do we do that? We don't do it the traditional way, which is keeping your leg flexed, because if I keep my trail leg flexed, I actually restrict my hips. I can't take the club back very far. I actually got to force my body into an uncomfortable position, places stress on the lower back and the knees. That's what creates a lot of surgical problems for golfers. No fun. The opposite is to give yourself more turn by freeing up. Free yourself up. So we have to get our hips turning. And what this turning motion does is I can increase my backswing tremendously. That's a lot more backswing. This is a sand wedge. That's like 100 degrees of shoulder turn versus I'm lucky to get 60 here because I flex my legs. So you free up the hips, you can free up more power. And that's what's going on with my bum, the Ben Hogan bum. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
There's my butt to the target, but I haven't moved off the ball. I haven't even moved toward it, toward the target. So I've really created a lot of turn, and there's a big difference in yardage with that.
You know, I think the way you say things makes it really easy. Rather than rotating my hips, I love this swing thought to face or tailbone towards the target. And I know, I mean, that's like a great little thing to keep in our heads. My team just sent me a note and said that in the V1 Golf app, there's lots of rear models. So anybody that wants to go check it out and actually see this, we have some rear models in the free V1 Golf app. So those are accessible for anybody that has the student version of that. And there are, they're telling me there's some rear models, so we can go check it out with other folks. Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, I want to add to that. When you look at these models, some guys do shift their weight. So the Ben Hogan video that I have, the Ben Hogan swing that we got here tonight is my interpretation of what Hogan's actually doing. So he has a little shift. And some people prefer to do a little shift to the right. You don't have to do it. I always saw it as wasted motion, but you'll see a lot of tour players because a lot of people are taught to shift. Mm-hmm. So they take that shift with them. You can still play good golf. I'm not telling you don't do it. If you're playing great golf, don't change it. If it ain't broke, don't worry about fixing it. But you'll see with a lot of tour players, maybe a little bit to the right, but then by the time you get to the top, you start seeing this. That's the key. That's the enchilada. That is the holy grail. That's it. And even with McElroy, that's a great one because he's got the little shift, but you see at the top, hips start moving toward the target because he's really loading up, freeing himself up to turn. He's only 5'8", but he hits the ball a long way.
Yeah. So Tom, I think this is a good time we got a question from Mike I think he's one of the Auburn coaches. He asked a question, I think it sort of ties in for this moment. Can you explain when the left hip starts turning and left leg straightens through the downturn?
Okay, so we're looking at this area of the downswing, I guess that where that left leg is supposed to, is that the snapping of that was the term they used to use with Tiger Woods, snapping his left leg type of thing?
I think he watched your YouTube and he's asking when the left hip starts turning and when the left leg straightens through the downturn.
When the left leg straightens. Yeah, so that's an awesome question. What's happening here is the left leg starts straight, the hips start turning after the lower body has moved laterally toward the target first. So the first move of the downswing is lateral because I need to get the club set on the proper path going down, which is getting the club through, I call it the middle lower back area, right here in the halfway down part. The lateral motion sets that. And get a little bit more space to see, get my legs in here. That motion right there. After that, after you move laterally toward the target enough, that's when we start seeing the hips turning through. That's where you'll start to see the lead leg straighten a little bit. I don't like to think of it as snapping the leg though, because I don't like to lock that leg. What's actually happening and looking at gears data, the best players in the world, and that's just, they put them on sensors and you can see where their hips are. You see where every body part pretty much is going. What's happening is as they get halfway through the downswing, we start to see the hips slow their rate of turning, a braking mechanism, and it's like cracking a whip. So we've got all this stored energy coming down. The energy's going from, I need to find out how to get as much energy as I can into this club head. So as I start my downswing, I'm taking energy from my body, I'm transferring it to my arms, my hands, the shaft, and the club head. And the way you get the most speed is, imagine we crack a whip, right?
Right.
When you crack the whip, I do this motion to send the whip going forward, but I break it. I stop it to get the crack. That's the speed. I'm doing the same thing in the golf swing right here. I've got my loaded up hip turn. As I come into the downswing, weight's going toward the target. My hips break. My right leg actually goes backward, like a skateboarder. That slows the hips down, transfers all that energy right to the club. So that's when the leg straightens on the left side, but it's like a braking mechanism more so than thinking about straightening the leg.
So can we see that in your after video, that power?
You can see it. Probably, I don't know if you'll be able to see it there.
Can we see your swing video with the hip turn and the
mega turn?
Yes, I want to go back to that 90 pressure versus 10.
Oh, okay, yeah, go back to that one. That one's the power swing.
Yes.
If I want to create as much power as possible, I need to load up the front side as much as I can. Now, keep in mind, I am not falling forward when I'm doing this. I'm staying centered.
Yes.
So I'm putting a ton of pressure into the ground on that front side, but I'm not leaning toward the target or leaning away from it. That gives me leverage. I can push off of the ground and use that braking to crack the whip on the way through.
Yeah, so, we're going to watch it. Jay, we're going to watch it right now.
This is the Hogan swing. You're going to see me shift to the right because Hogan did this little shift, but we're going to stop at the top because I'm turning my hips a lot here.
Yeah.
And by the time I get to the top, I was really surprised at this number.
Look at that. There's a 90-10 right there. Go,
right.
Want to go 2 seconds. I want it. We got it. That's like the best screen capture. That is so good. Jim Altamore. There it is right there.
I didn't even think that was humanly possible. I
That's
never
amazing.
felt that.
That is amazing. Woo! Jim Altamore, I want to see it tomorrow.
You know, the amount of speed created by that was ridiculous. Ridiculous. The numbers, I was like something like 95 miles an hour with a 7-iron.
Looking at your video, it doesn't look like you only have 10% of your weight on your right foot. That's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not, the misconception about stack and tilt is that we're doing this. We're actually not doing, we're staying centered and really turning. And I'm turning as much as I can so I can hit with the wrath of God.
Yeah. Okay, real quick, a few things. Jay, the pressure mat shows the braking in the trace. You will see that in that yellow line. We're not seeing it here because Tom is displaying an extremely linear trace. That yellow line is very linear. That's a tour models are very linear. Tour traces are very linear. So this is pretty spectacular. And that 90-10 is what we all strive for. So yes, the linear line will show the brake to answer that question. And Jim, thank you for pointing out how linear that trace is. It's pretty amazing. I'd call that a pretty crispy swing.
Well, I mean, just throw it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Throw it in the deep fryer. The hips create the deep frying for the crispy.
Awesome. So and let's see. And we have, yes, and I was looking for my winner. I was looking in my chat screen. So I mentioned that we were going to do a giveaway. The giveaway today is some Tom Saguto swag, definitely the crispier than Kentucky Fried Chicken t-shirt. And our winner is Alan Studnicki. So congratulations, Alan. If you'll just shoot over an email, we will reach out to you. We'll find you. And congratulations for getting some Tom Saguto swag. I'm sure he'll put a note in there personally.
Awesome, Alan.
Yeah, fun. Okay.
I see him on the YouTube channel all the time.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. He said, woohoo, thank you. Love that. So cool. Okay.
Sweet.
We have 12 minutes left. What can you teach us?
Whew. What can I teach you? So well, can we show the numbers that I did before doing the mega hip turn? And the after?
And yeah, so I asked Tom when we were working on this, our agenda tonight, to give us some actual numbers. We have a lot of people that have mats and they actually want to see what those numbers should be. So we have a slide. Tom did, I think you did before and after, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I went out today, went out cold, just filmed a bunch of swings, took an average. And I was, it's effortless what this extra hip turn is able to do. You saw me do the regular swing. That was the one that I said I hit my 7-iron 165, and that's a pretty stock 7-iron for me. And I'm using the Voice Caddy SC 100. I've been using that for a while to measure my carry yardages. So this is carry. When I did the 7-iron and driver, I usually average about 108 with the driver. Today I was a little cooler, but if you hit it clean, you're still going to hit it far. That's the key. You can see that when I went and turned on the jets with the Ben Hogan hip turn, the mega hip turn swing, like the 90% on the front side, you don't even recognize the guy who was the regular hip turn. We're talking huge increases in speed and yardage here.
And your only swing thought there was tailbone towards the target. That's the only difference in these two sets of numbers?
Yes. Now you have to keep in mind, because I moved my tailbone toward the target, I have freed up my shoulders to turn more. So if you don't turn the shoulders, you don't get as much speed, but you need to be able to turn the shoulders as much as you can doing that. So that is another power source. We don't get to that tonight, but you gotta use the turn that you've just freed up with the hips.
Okay.
Because the hips create the room to turn and do it without hurting your back, which is the nice part about it. So the driver was huge as well. I mean, like I said, I just came out cold and I open up the hips and that's what happens.
Okay. So do you think that we could correlate pressure from the mat with that hip turn? Like what is it? What is the weight when you're in the backswing? Is it not, are we shooting for 90-10?
90-10 would be my super swing. I mean, that was an anomaly. That's not my everyday swing, though I want to try it out now.
I know. We have it captured. It's awesome. We love the V1 software because it can capture. A couple questions. How do the hand path in this type of swing? How do
the hand path, like what the hand path's doing. So since we're not swinging in a straight line, as you open up your hips to turn, it naturally takes the club in a circle around the body. And this is totally normal because you do the hula hoop. Golf's played on a tilted angle. That tilted angle looks like this. So naturally the club's got to go this way, inward. So it does like that. So it's a more inward hand path if you're used to the lifting of the club.
Okay.
It's easier because you don't have to think about lifting the arms and dropping the club. That's a timing mechanism. So no timing.
My buddy Jim, who's an extremely good golfer, and he has a pressure mat, and he's asked a good question. And I might ask him to give us a little more detail on this question. He says, when I move tailbone to the target, my swing gets stuck.
Okay. Yeah, so it depends on, you can do too much of a good thing. And with better players, you typically see this. Like they create this, they actually move the tailbone ahead of their shoulders. If you want to hit it clean, you've got to make sure your shoulders are over the hips at the top. So I'm creating all this hip turn, not by doing this. That's too much of a good thing. I'm turning the hips and keeping my shoulders stacked over the hips.
Right.
Like boxes. Without seeing your swing, it's tough to tell. It also depends if you're somebody who lifts up and you start doing this, you're going to feel weird about it. It's going to feel, some players describe it as feeling stuck, but eventually as you get used to it, the inward path, it's just a different feeling of hitting from there for sure.
Yeah. Jim, work on that some tonight. Get back to us tomorrow. I'll be interested to hear if you're still loosening up or still feeling stuck. That's, I know Jim's definitely probably looking at numbers on his pressure. They're asking for drills. Should I stand on my mat? You want to give me some drills?
You want some? Yeah, go ahead and stay on your mat because if we get Mandy to do it over a webinar right now without
I'll tell you, I've never shown my swing on camera. I wouldn't do this with just anyone. And I can't hit a golf ball, there's some crazy light things going on in my apartment, but I am going to share my screen.
We're going to learn how to do some, what's the shag dancing? Does that involve hip rotation in South Carolina?
I can shag dance. Hang on, it's really dark. Okay, can you guys see my feet?
I can see the swaying of your hips and probably the turning. So it's dark.
This is a good example of when you have a golf studio, why you need to consult me with lighting. There's some flickering going on in that light behind me, but okay.
Okay, so you got a club in your hands. Well, we're going to do without a club first. I always love to train movement. If you can't do the movement, you need to learn the movement first, then put the club in your hands. Makes life a lot easier because then you're not thinking about the club. Mandy, first thing I want you to do is just from a static position, just turn your hips so that your tailbone points at the target. So it's kind of like we're just doing a little swivel here with our hips. And your belt buckle area should point maybe at your right toe. It's a good,
so dark. Can you guys see me? That's a little
so you're centered on that mat. And actually, when you get set, can you move your weight a little bit more forward at setup? So you're a little bit more. I want you to push your left hip toward the target a little bit more. So and just in your setup, see if you can, just like this, bump it toward the target. Just a little bit. Okay, good. So that's got you actually 70-30. That's okay for now. Now, stay over that left leg. That left leg is going to just be like a door hinge. It's not going anywhere. Everything you're going to do is turn around the left leg stationary. The right leg is going to straighten with that hip turn. And when you're doing that little motion right there, you actually see the weight nudging forward because your butt is going toward the target. Your tailbone's going toward the target.
I have way more weight in my toes than I would normally think would be okay.
So you feel like you're going more forward on your toes too. Yeah, that's normal because you need to balance. You need to keep your balance. And the only way you can do that with this amount of hip turn is your weight starts going more into the balls of your feet than what you're probably used to if you're doing more heels before.
Right.
Even though this is a great observation with your mat, it's saying your weight's still pretty centered, if not, it's not even red on your toes. So it's not really pushing down as much as you think. So once you've got that little hip turn nudge, right, we're going to take it up a notch, like Emerald in the kitchen. Bam. I want you to pretend you're holding a club. I want you to keep your weight over the front side and just turn your shoulders. And as you go through the backswing, keep moving that tailbone toward the target so that your right leg straightens.
Yep.
Really nice. So that's a really centered golf swing right there. There it is.
I like that swing.
Beautiful.
Tailbone towards the target. I'm not feeling stuck here.
If anything, you freed up your body to turn a lot more than, yeah, you're about 70-30 at top. That's the actual number you should get to is 70-30. 90-10 was the super swing. So what does that feel like for you, though, when you get there?
It feels good. It feels like...
What's the percent, though? If you could...
If I could what?
If you can quantify like a number at the top. Give me a little bit more of that hip toward the target again. So go back to this. There it is.
I like this drill.
The T-bone to the target. That's it.
Tailbone to the target. There's all the T's tonight. Okay, so that's our drill. The flickering is driving me crazy. When we set up golf studios, I would never have bad lighting like this. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
my high-speed
that was a really
cameras.
nice job. Really nice job from.
That. Thank you, James, for my feet correction too. I'm a beginner golfer. I rarely do that on camera. Okay, really quickly, we have a question. Would a diagonal stance help with this type of hip action?
So I'm guessing you mean to have like a closed stance, a diagonal.
Rowan asked, would a diagonal stance help with this hip action? And actually, James made a comment for me to flare my feet slightly. So maybe that's
it.
You think so?
Yeah. Oh, so if you have your feet straight on, this is the big one. This takes off a lot of stress. Feet straight on restricts the hips. Feet flared out allows. And so if you flare them out like 15, 20 degrees, you'll be allowed to turn for miles.
Okay. Maybe that would help Jim a little bit. Maybe he was feeling a little stuck because his feet were square. I'm a ballet dancer by trade, so I'm very much about straight feet and pointed or very, exact. Yes, thank you, Kelly, for those notes. You guys, we are right at our 1 hour mark. I would really like to make sure that everyone knows how to get in touch with Tom. Please go follow him on his YouTube channel. And then also, we had a bunch of people reach out to us about how to sign up for lessons with Tom. You can do in-person lessons. He has lots of programs. He's got an online golf school, but he also can do remote lessons through V1 Golf. And if you go to saguto.golf, you will see all of those options, and you will be able to schedule with Tom directly. He is awesome. He's my friend. Jay is just moved to Charleston. Yes, I would love to chat and have a coffee or a beer. And I am Mandy. We would love to see you next week. I will be doing this again every Tuesday until the new year when I fill up our hosts for the next year. Tom will be joining us again if I can talk him into it. And I just have to leave you with one thing.
Oh, man.
Where's your sword, Tom?
It's right here. I thought you were going to say something like, I am your father. I thought that'd be kind of weird, though.
No, I don't have a pressure mat trace prepared for my sword, although I will sword fight on my mat, and you can analyze that. How about that?
I would love to see pressure traces from a sword fight.
Any final words, Tom?
Well, I mean, I don't have any last words. I didn't quite plan on those, but thank you so much. I mean, if that's what you meant. Thank you so much for the webinar, and everybody who's attending. I really, really appreciate it. I hope this gives you insight into the golf swing that unlocks your golf swing to where you really want it to be: consistent, powerful, pain-free, body-friendly. And so that's everything I'm trying to do on my channel. And take your V1 apps out. Get the mobile app out. I want you going to the range tomorrow. I want you filming your rears. And if you have somebody filming, you say, hey, I want you to do me this big favor. I want you to film my butt. And they're saying, no, never in a million years will I ever do that. You say, here's $1. Just do it one time. I need to see where my tailbone's going. If you want to take away anything from this thing, if you don't get anything out of this today, other than this one thing right here, is that the best players always move the tailbone toward the target in the backswing, and the downswing, they stay more forward. The worst players, who I will come at with a sword if you do this, move their tailbone away from the target, and then they finish away from the target.
No
with
good.
their weight on their back leg.
That's
So
no good.
don't do that.
Thank you for telling us where our tushy should be in our golf swing, Tom.
It's a pleasure. There's no buts about it.
There's no buts about it. All right, I'm looking forward to our next visit, and I'll see everyone else next week. Tuesday Traces, Tuesday at 7 p.m. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye, Tom.
Bye, Mandy.